God, good morning. How we doing? Is that front rolling in? I don't know if you guys saw the front rolling in from the west. You feel the south wind coming? Well, it's windy, but there's something. There's something.
It is so windy.
Well, it depends when the house is built, then maybe it's
It's
possible.
one of those really lame cookie cutter houses
Possible.
that nothing.
Hopefully, if it made through the last winter storm we had, hopefully it'll make it this windy. There's something definitely brewing. It was fun watching the moon kind of set behind it this morning while the sun was beaming out from the east. It was, wasn't it? It was absolutely gorgeous. It's kind of, it was nice, like cool looking left and seeing the sun, and looking right and seeing the moon settling behind this wall of gray. So, welcome back. Let's see. Who wasn't here last time and didn't get a few of these sheets? So go ahead and hand these around. Grab like 5 or 6 of them right now. That should get us through today. You guys put in the data sheets. Because there's one for each hypothesis test we're going to do. And then these bad boys, there's 2 of them. So then they should be collated still. Check to make sure you have 2 different pages. That's the same data sheet I gave you guys last time. Here's a stapler if you need it. Megan also has some candy that might or might not be poisoned. So I don't know. So, Angie asked an awesome question that I want to make sure that you guys, if anybody else is thinking the same question that Angie asked, I want to make sure you guys don't get freaked out. If anybody looked at the quizzes for this week before right now, you might have been a little confused. Because when you look at it, there's not like a typical rule quiz has like 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 1 point, 2 points. That one has nothing on it except for a description of a problem. The reason that there's nothing on it is the part you'll be handing in is one of these sheets right here. You'll be doing that entire quiz on one of these sheets. These sheets are templates. They're templates for setting up these hypothesis tests. It's my latest iteration of ways to help everybody kind of understand how to do these things more efficiently. And this is my up till now I never had templates, and then I used a textbook template, but I didn't like their template, and the students didn't either, so I kind of developed my own. So you'll be handing in one of these bad boys. And we also decided last time that every once in a while we'll hand ones in class. Just make them in-class quizzes, which is also very, very good. That'll add up, get to our 10 quizzes much more quickly that way. So as we go through today, we'll do a whole bunch of them today. And pretty much from now till the rest of the end of the term, so that's all we're going to be doing is running through these things and making sure you can see the different iterations of why you need them. JC, please! Please, go ahead.
Have you figured out what we're doing for Child's Week?
I have 2 or 3 ideas percolating. It's going to require you to be here for a short period of time during that day. It won't be the whole time, I promise you that. Say that again?
I said I was just curious if you...
Yeah, they're percolating still thus far. It'll probably... Well, right now, the only thing I know you have to do is bring that second exam with you.
Yeah.
That's it, as far as that goes. I will not make any crazy assessment like an in-class exam or anything like that. I promise you that. Go ahead, go ahead. What are you worried about?
Nothing. I was going to say, have you thought, instead of doing your survey must be online?
I have thought exactly what you're saying. Yup, I thought about that exactly. Yeah, I thought that's one of the things percolating right now is to just to get you guys. I think it is too. And let me chit-chat with you about the break about my one concern. Maybe you can offset it for me. So I'd love to hear your ideas on that.
Megan said she's going to bring donuts.
That might or might not be poison. Good. This might or might not have anthrax on them.
Certain ones will. Thoughts on what?
Rice. What's that?
Thoughts on what?
Thoughts on what? I don't know. Megan's back and we're happy. We're excited because Megan's back. So, what we're going to be doing for the rest of the we only have 4 more weeks together, which is very sad. But what we're going to be doing is filling out this chart right here. Now this chart I'll make available to you. You don't need it to have it memorized or anything. This represents what we've done so far in the class and what we're going to head to do for the remainder of the class. So if you look up here, the question is, what do you want to do? So far, up until last week, we were estimating parameters. We were trying to figure out how big or how small or at what rate something was happening. And we had either percentages or we had averages. Those are the 2 things we've been estimating. There's a third thing you can estimate I've been ignoring intentionally because nobody really seems to estimate it anymore. So if you have an average, you run a single mean confidence interval. If you run a proportion, it's a single proportion confidence interval. I put the little TI terms on there as well. It's a little hard to see, JC. I apologize. No, it's a little hard to see. I shrunk it down so the whole thing was visible.
The green is harder. The green is just.
I know. It looks perfect on a computer screen. I apologize. It really does look good here. So I'll make this available to you so you can have it on a smaller screen. We're in the middle of, we just started this idea. So if you don't want to estimate a parameter, but instead see if it has changed, that's when we start hypothesis testing. That's what you see. So the quizzes for this week, the second one I can't remember. The first, I posted 2, didn't I? Good. The first one is about, I posted 3?
Yeah.
I did, because I threw one. I promised you guys another quiz from the previous homework, and I'm going to have at least one more of those too. Just because that idea doesn't hurt to go back to it, look at it again. But the 2 that are from, the 2 that are like the Johns Hopkins quiz, the idea is you read a percentage or you hear an average in the news and you want to see if that's actually valid by doing your own experiment. So that's the idea of a hypothesis test. You could do it with a confidence interval, but a much more prevalent way of testing those ideas today is to run a hypothesis test. That Johns Hopkins percentage was 75%. They said, we saw, on average, people getting these right 75% of the time. And I said, I wonder if Math 244 students will get it right at a higher rate. So that's what you'll be testing. You'll be testing that hypothesis. Now, one way to do it is to construct a confidence interval on the proportion of success that you would get. That is one way of doing it. But in order to do it effectively, you have to construct what's called a one-tailed confidence interval. Because you want to see if you guys do better than the 75%, not just different than the 75%. So you have to have a stop, a low point, and then going off to 100%. And the thing is, and I keep doing research on this to see what's current, nobody seems to do those in literature. They run these instead. So that's what we're doing right now. We're smack dab in the middle of testing proportions through these one-sided or sometimes two-sided confidence intervals, but they're just called hypothesis tests, which I apologize, Kate, too, for using the HT for hypothesis test before you got used to it enough. That's all good. So when you see HT in your quizzes, it just means hypothesis testing. Or if you see it in the homework, or if you see it on the referenced in any place, hypothesis testing. Cool? And that's the rest of the class. We're going to go from a single proportion to, and if you scroll down now, this might be hard to see, I apologize again. Once you've identified what variable you want to test, you then have to ask how many you're going to test. And here's where hypothesis tests really shine. You guys have already identified a problem with confidence intervals. If you try to do too many of them in one study, you start whittling confidence away. If you do 2 of them, you're down to 90%. If you do 10 of them, you're down to like 65% confidence. So the more you do, the more you lose as far as confidence goes. Hypothesis tests, if you can answer this question correctly, which we will do as we go through the course, you don't lose the confidence. You maintain your 95% or whatever percent you want correctly and mathematically. And that's kind of the point of the rest of the class too, is to show you what happens if you want to test, 16 proportions at once. Or in the case of the first experiment, we'll do 10. We're going to test an iPod randomizer to see how random it is. And then we're going to test M&Ms to see if the colors are actually what Mars says they should be. FYI, spoiler alert, in 16 years they never have been. So we'll see if it's changed. Maybe all those letters I write will have done something. I doubt it. Exactly.
Do you really
I doubt it. So that every time I do the experiment with you guys, I collate the data, send it off to Mars, and say, look, this is what we get every single time. I give them the historical data, the current data, and
Really, everybody.
I get a letter back every 3 months. I do. Sometimes they're even customized, which I love. I get a feeling that that their job is pretty boring and like, what are those letters? I'm guessing. Jeffrey Wynn. Hi Jeff, if you're there. Jeffrey Wynn seems to enjoy my letters an awful lot. He actually
I like watching
customizes.
your videos for fun.
Maybe. So, but anyway, the point is, if we were to run those tests without doing the proper assignation of sample size, we would lose. I mean, if we did 10, if we tested the iPod for randomness with 10 trials, you couldn't maintain 95% confidence unless you do the entire test at once, which is one of the things we'll learn. So basically, this whole section of the spreadsheet will eventually become fleshed out with some interesting stuff, and that's the point. That's the point, is to get us to that point. Cool? All right. So let's pause and restart, and let's go back to our data sheet. Last time we were together, we crunched through the flu vaccine. It was the very first data set on that data sheet. So you have your templates, you got your blank templates ready to go, yeah? You got your, oh, and Deanna, you can have this Excel spreadsheet. You don't have to write it down. I mean, that's awesome. I'm just letting you know you can have this if you want, and you will have it as we keep piecing it together. So you got a couple things with you. You got your blank templates ready to go, and you got your data sheet, because your data sheet is very, very helpful just in keeping all that information in one place. We will be generating data in class, I promise you that. I promise you that, because we can do some stopwatch stuff, we can do some hand response time stuff and things like that. but it's also, oh yeah, go ahead Tim, grab this. So once you have your data sheet in front of you, check out the next. There we go.
How many do we get in?
I don't know their names. I figure until you go over. So check out the next data set down. So we tested the flu vaccine. Oh, speaking of which, what was our decision about the flu vaccine? Should we market it?
Well, it helps.
It does. It statistically significantly helps, doesn't it? As a quick recap
Maybe.
from Kate, I was going to say from last week.
No, I was gonna say maybe.
Oh, maybe, depending on how you define practical significance.
That and
Yeah.
if you had the false positive.
Good. Now, this brings up a good point. I want to get back into errors today. I'm not going to do it right off the bat because I want to kind of get the gears turning again about the basic kind of flow of the test first. But I want to get back into the errors. I actually had an idea right up the hill today. I have a quiz for you guys for next week on error. I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it because we're going to walk through a spreadsheet today. I think that will help you understand error better. And Kate's got a good point. An error analysis is pretty important. You have to decide in reality. Now I want to say that right now. Outside of this classroom, you have to decide which kind of error is more acceptable. That's what the quiz is for this week. There's a third quiz for this week that's all about error identification. And in your opinion, which type would be worse in a given situation? That's your opinion, yeah? Which means there isn't going to be one correct answer for which one do you think is worse. As a researcher, you'll get much better at identifying which one's worse because there are certain patterns. Like for drug companies, for example, a false negative tends to be worse. Because if you fail for side effects, for example. So suppose you're testing for hives to see if a certain medication gives hives. We're going to look at one of these actually, this next data set is about side effects of a drug. And if you miss a side effect, you could put a drug out into the world that has a quote-unquote known side effect, but your test missed it. Does that make sense? So you might want to decrease the chance of a type 2 error, which would be a false negative.
Is that why they do recalls all the time?
Well, I don't know about all the time, but that's where recalls happen. They may have missed something. Or the other thing, too, that happens with recalls is they were doing tests on the status quo, what they usually test for, and some weird thing snuck in that nobody saw coming. That nobody, like Viagra. Viagra, they were testing for like a cholesterol or like a heart medication or something. Like, whoa, look what it does. Nobody was expecting that result. So that happens quite a bit too. Like, oh my God, we never thought that this hitch in the rear impact would cause a spark that might ignite gas tanks. That's you know, we're looking for other things, for 10,000 other things, but we weren't looking for that one thing. So that's sometimes why recalls happen too. That's just part of the scientific process of refinement as well, trying to kind of tighten the screws down more. Great question. So, I was going somewhere with that with the errors. Oh yeah, so deciding which type of error is worse varies from person to person. It also varies from discipline to discipline. So I want to get you guys kind of used to that grid. Check out this next data set here, which is about Prevnar. I actually heard this mentioned in the doctor's waiting room when Max's 6-year checkup of the day, and I got a chuckle out of it. So take a look.